Members of Council, members of Senate, Chairperson of Senate, the Principal and Vice Chancellor, members of the university academic community, colleagues, our students, and ladies and gentlemen. Sanibonani, good afternoon, molweni, dimacheroni, goeiemiddag, dimategwan. It gives me great pleasure to welcome you to Prof. Rudolf Oosthuizen's inaugural lecture. Let me take this opportunity to acknowledge Prof. Mohale, who is the Executive Dean of the College of Economic and Management Sciences, the Deputy Dean of the College, and the college leadership, his colleagues, friends present here this afternoon, and those at home watching online. It also gives me great pleasure to also welcome and acknowledge Prof. Oosthuizen's family in attendance. In addition, I acknowledge and welcome Professor Kutsi from the Department of Industrial and Organizational Psychology here at UNISA, who will be our respondent this afternoon. Ladies and gentlemen, as I take this opportunity to welcome you to the University of the Land, I do acknowledge that the time when we are subjected to stringent COVID-19 pandemic regulations that have also made this inaugural lecture take a different shape altogether. We appreciate, though, that we have now relaxed conditions, but that does not mean we should relax and lower our guard against this pandemic. The COVID-19 pandemic has caused havoc in the way we do things. The year 2020 will go down in history as a year which defined the so-called new normal. Unfortunately, COVID-19 disrupted economies globally and placed in disarray our social systems, and lest we forget, the loss of life in ways unimaginable across the world. We as UNISA, of course, we were not spared. We have lost staff, students, and more importantly, family members and friends. Our major concern with COVID-19 pandemic was the impact it has on our ability to deliver services to our students. We provide study access to our students via our learning centers across the country, and due to COVID-19, we have not been able to do so for the most part of 2020 and 2021. And this has caused substantial grief from our students. We have, through our learning management system, managed to deliver both the learning content and assessments in ways that have changed the way we do things. Our technology saved us, and our students, the extended academic year, saved us from an extended academic year. Though these actions have helped, does not mean these efforts were not without challenges. You all know that UNISA is the longest existing, dedicated, and the largest distance education institution in the world, which was founded in 1873. We cater for the student population that is equivalent to 1/3 of all South African higher education institutions, and we constitute more than 90% of all the students enrolled in distance learning programs. Historically, this university is perhaps the only university in South Africa to have provided all people with access to education, irrespective of race, color, or creed. Today, we also pride ourselves of having the first woman principal and vice chancellor in 149 years. This is indicative of our efforts to ensure that UNISA continues to be the transformative university in the service of humanity. As a comprehensive, open, distance, and e-learning institution, we are guided by the principles of lifelong learning, student-centeredness, innovation, and creativity. Because of CODEL, we contribute to the knowledge creation, advancement of humankind, and development of the critical citizenry to advance global sustainability. We achieve all this through our learner-centeredness approach, which provides for lifelong learning in a flexible learning environment through interactive learning materials, thereby increasing access into higher education for most disadvantaged learners. We also pride ourselves in the development and promotion of our own staff so that they can continue to support our students and communities around us. We are grateful that this inaugural lecture is taking place within the context of our renewed spirit, in the context of our revised UNISA 2020 strategy and our strategic plan. In some ways, Prof. Oosthuizen's inaugural lecture has come at the right time. It is the time for the serious consideration of transformation ideals within the context of UNISA, our higher education sector, and South Africa as a whole. We are proud that today, UNISA continues to demonstrate the value of a strong cadre of the professorship that is necessary to instill our students critical thinking and analysis of the highest order. This is a very proud moment for every academic as it reflects one of the pinnacles of academic achievement. It so gives us great pleasure that our rank of professors is growing substantially, and we are of the view that such will also grow our research experience in leaps and bounds in South Africa, our continent, and the world. Ladies and gentlemen, in terms of today's proceedings, Professor Mogale will introduce Prof. Oosthuizen and invite him to the podium. Prof. Kutsi will then follow after Prof. Oosthuizen with a response without any further announcements. I now invite Prof. Mogale to the podium. Thank you.
Vice Chancellor and Principal of the University of South Africa, Professor Lenkabula, Deputy Vice Chancellor, Strategy, Risk and Advisory Services, Professor Ndlovu, Deputy Executive Dean of the College of Economic and Management Sciences, Professor Mpofu, Directors of Schools in the College, Professor Naidu, Professor Ngwenya, Professor Mrauzi, and chairs of departments, other leaderships of student formation in UNISA, parents, and Professor Oosthuizen's relatives, distinguished guests, good day, and all protocols observed. It gives me great pleasure to welcome you on this special day in which Professor Oosthuizen presents his inaugural lecture in recognition of his promotion to full professorial rank. And so, this is a celebratory event that brings academics to establish new collaborations, strengthen existing relationships, and catch up with alumni. The event represents a significant milestone in Professor Oosthuizen's career, celebrating as it does his promotion to the rank of full professorship in UNISA. We look forward to hearing from Professor Oosthuizen his career development and achievements thus far, to updating us on current and future research plans as he introduces us to the field of IOP practices and his specialized expertise to the academics, audiences, students, and wider community. Professor Rudolf Oosthuizen received a BA degree cum laude from the University of Pretoria in 1992 and obtained a BA honors in psychology in the same university in 1993. In 1999, he received MA degree in industrial and personnel psychology from Potchefstroom University for Christian Higher Education. The title of his dissertation was Coping of Firefighters Attached to a Local Authority, a photogenic approach. In 1999, he registered as an industrial psychologist from the Health Professionals Councils of South Africa, HPCSA, and also registered since 2014 as a master HR professional with the South African Board for People Practices, SABPP. In 2005, he completed a DILT at Phil in Industrial and Organizational Psychology at the University of South Africa, UNISA. The title of his thesis was Job and Family Stresses Among Firefighters. Currently, Professor Rudolf is a leader in the Department of Industrial and Organizational Psychology at UNISA and an adjunct professor in the School of Psychology and Counseling at the University of Southern Queensland in Australia. Rudolf acted as the chair of the department in 2021 for a period of 6 months and the second week in January 2022, and is the manager for the MCOM IOP Professional Coursework program and is responsible for the lecturing of honors subjects and the supervision of master's and doctoral students. Professor Oosthuizen has presented conference papers at national and international conferences and published extensively in accredited scientific journals and textbooks. His field of interest include Fourth Industrial Revolution, smart technology, artificial intelligence, robotics, and algorithms, career psychology, positive psychology, and employment relation. His current research focus areas include smart technology, artificial intelligence, robotics, and algorithms in the context of the Fourth Industrial Revolution. It is therefore my supreme pleasure to welcome Professor Rudolf Oosthuizen to the podium to deliver his inaugural lecture.
Good afternoon to the Principal and Vice Chancellor, Professor Lenkabula, the Vice Principal Strategy, Risk and Advisory Services, Prof. Ndlovu, the Executive Dean of the College of Economic and Management Sciences, Prof. Muhale, the Deputy Executive Dean of the College of Economic and Management Sciences, Professor Mpofu, the Director of the School of Management Sciences, Prof. Mulahutsi, the Chair of the Department of Industrial and Organizational Psychology, Dr. Mapala, the respondent to my lecture, Professor Kutsia, my wife, Susan Oosthuizen, my children, John and Roseanne Oosthuizen, my mother, Christa Oosthuizen, my mother-in-law, Rita Brown, and family members, distinguished guests, colleagues, students, and friends. Thank you for the kind welcome, Professor Ndlovu. I'm truly grateful for UNISA's recognition of my scholarship and my inauguration as a full professor. Thank you all for attending this virtual event, an event which signifies my rite of passage as an academic, a profession that is filled with rituals. It gives me pleasure to be afforded the opportunity to deliver my inaugural lecture today, which is grounded in industrial and organizational psychology. The title of my inaugural lecture is The Fourth Industrial Revolution, Smart Technology, Artificial Intelligence, Robotics, and Algorithms, STARA, Industrial Psychologists in Future Workplaces. The key role of industrial psychologists is to contribute to strategic and operational human resources practice and people behavioral dynamics, assessment, and intervention design in organizations. Thus, industrial psychologists apply psychology principles in the workplace, develop interventions to remodel poor performance, and implement industrial psychology intervention programs. As background for my lecture, the human workforce is going through a mandated advancement. The collective impact of advanced changes and benefits and the associated drawbacks are critical issues that require in-depth dialogue about the workforce. Although the transformation of the workforce may take place over a century, Eliot suggests that organizations should understand the growing capabilities of technology and its impact on the workforce over the next decade or two. Stephen Hawking and Bill Gates have warned of mass unemployment due to the rise of smart technology, artificial intelligence, robotics, and algorithms, which are termed STARA. It is estimated that 33% of occupations that exist today could be diminished by STARA by 2025. Because of advances in robotic dexterity and intelligence, joined with low-cost autonomous units that can possibly outperform people in many work settings and dynamic activities. Instances of these kinds of innovation incorporate retail self-checkout systems, cell phone applications, robotization in bookkeeping, the Web of Things, and future advances in driverless vehicles. The cost advantage of these kinds of innovation makes it difficult to think about the prolongation of workers in certain positions. Equally, recent debates encourage the need for teams to work digitally and interdependently on set tasks, and for industrial psychologists to cultivate competencies fundamental to STARA, as this may further help reduce staff turnover intention and catalyze innovation initiatives. STARA is not being utilized into simply low-paid, low-talented jobs. High-tech algorithms are being utilized in research, and information writing algorithms inside organizations and broad communications are becoming more progressive. Also, the use of robots with high precision finesse is increasing fundamentally. An investigation of 702 professions itemized the probability of STARA ceasing employment. Occupations at risk incorporate, for instance, accountants, commercial pilots, client administration, sales, and office employees. STARA could also substantially affect healthcare, education, transportation, and farming enterprises. In general, research demonstrated that 47% of occupations are in danger of being eliminated by STARA. In the South African context, President Cyril Ramaphosa positioned the Fourth Industrial Revolution, or the 4IR, into his national economic strategy, generating criticism for its new liberal rhetoric, echoing the World Economic Forum, and concern it would not create jobs. For corporations, it means rethinking strategies and auto-cannibalism of business models. For policymakers in manufacturing nations, it is supposed to raise competitiveness and bring manufacturing home, potentially blocking developing nations from creating jobs through attracting labor-intensive manufacturing. Its effects on work and employment are forecast to be complex, potentially heightening inequality by reducing demands for low levels of skills. South Africa has a significant skills shortage due to the failings in its education system, limiting the supply of managers, researchers, and workers needed for the 4IR. There are also problems of poor quality infrastructure, reflecting weak governance and state capture. It has a poor record in policy formulation and implementation, especially across departments, with notable delays in cybersecurity and data projection. There's only a small domestic market, and despite aspirations, it is not an easy gateway to the rest of Africa, which has strong demographic growth but limited spending power and poor physical distribution systems. Moreover, South African firms have to compete with a strong Chinese presence. I will now focus on the literature review for this lecture. Emerging digital workspaces in the 4IR. The concept of the 4IR describes the increasing digitization of the entire value chain and resulting interconnection of people, objects and systems through real-time data exchange. It is characterized by the proliferation of increasingly complex technologies that are bringing together the physical, digital and biological worlds. As a result of that interconnection, products, machines and processes are equipped with artificial intelligence and are enabled to adapt to spontaneous changes in the environment independently. Furthermore, smart technology becomes embedded in broader systems which enhance the creation of flexible, self-controlling production systems. There are various fields of application for smart technology and systems. However, the focus is still on industrial applications. An essential aspect of the 4IR is an autonomous production methods powered by robots that can complete tasks intelligently, with a focus on safety, flexibility, versatility, and cooperation. Without the need to isolate its working area, its integration into human workspaces becomes more economical and productive and open up many possible applications in industries. Robots that are more industrial are evolving with the latest technological innovation to facilitate the 4IR. In the 4IR, robots and humans will work hand in hand, so to speak, on interlinking tasks and using smart sensor human-machine interfaces. The use of robots is widening to include various functions, namely production, logistics, and office management, and they can be controlled remotely. Thus, the 4IR is based on cyber-physical systems, the Internet of Things, and the Internet of Services. More companies and nations are joining the movement and are using different approaches to be competitive and to benefit from the productivity and economic gains that it provides. Although the 4IR covers a very wide area of application in the manufacturing industry, the trend is quickly materializing through the emergence of robotics and automation product innovation that is tailored for the industrial revolution. STARA. The future of the world of work compels industrial psychologists to consider the biggest questions of their time. What influence will the continuing march of STARA have on where people work and how people work? Will people need to work at all? What is their place in an automated world? Many analysts focused on smart technology and the impact that automation is predicted to have on careers in the workplace. The real story is far more complicated. It's less about technological innovation and more about the manner in which humans decide to use that technology. The shape that the workforce of the future takes will be the result of complex, changing, and competing forces. Some of these forces are evident, but the speed at which they unfold is hard to predict. Policies and laws, the governments that impose them, and the broad trends in consumer, citizen, and employee sentiment will all influence the transition towards an automated workplace. The outcome of this battle will determine the future of careers in 2030. When so many complex forces are at play, linear predictions are too simplistic. Organizations, governments, industrial psychologists, and individuals need to be prepared for a number of possible, even seemingly unlikely outcomes. Smart technology. Diores et al. State that the rapid progress of wireless communication and sensing smart technologies has enabled the development of smart learning environments that can detect the environmental context and quantify the attention of an employee in his or her workplace. In the field of computer science, a smart environment is a digitally augmented physical world where sensor-enabled and network devices work continuously to make the lives of citizens more comfortable. Significant developments in smart devices, wireless communications, sensor networks, pervasive computing, machine learning, robotics, middleware and agent technologies, and human-computer interfaces have made the aspiration of smart environments a reality. The concept smart denotes the ability to autonomously acquire and apply knowledge, and the concept environment denotes employees' surroundings. Alongside this technological evolution, job offers have changed, bringing along many significant and wide-ranging changes. Some of the changes are the emergence of indicators such as responsiveness to rapid change, which in extreme cases can compromise the life and well-being of employees. In moderate circumstances, it will impair concentration, general cognitive skills, and productivity. Several of these careers are the so-called desk jobs in which people frequently work for more than 8 hours. Artificial intelligence. The potential for digital platforms and artificial intelligence to underpin and develop the world of work is unbounded. This platform stratum creates a digital value chain, commoditization, and automation of the back office, but it comes with warnings. While it can create a thriving trading sphere, it can sprout to take over the entire financial system, and with platform pervasiveness comes vulnerability to cyber attacks and wide-scale manipulation. Closely linked to digital platforms are data. How governments, organizations, and individuals decide to share and use it is key to our worlds, even the most human-centric. Artificial intelligence in the form of digital assistants or chatbots and machine learning, which is a branch of artificial intelligence, and computer science focuses on the use of data and algorithms to imitate the way humans learn, gradually improving its accuracy. It could understand, learn, and then act based on that information. Some visionaries believe artificial intelligence could create a world where human abilities are amplified as machines help mankind process, analyze, and evaluate the abundance of data that creates today's world, allowing humans to spend more time engaged in high-level thinking, creativity, and decision-making. Robotics. Up to the present time, most robots have been slaves of their human operatives, but they are gaining much greater power and autonomy. The increasing use of robots has sparked the question how robots can be integrated successfully into human-robot teams. Richards indicate that teams can share goals through delegation between humans and robots or agent members. There's a great deal of paranoia surrounding the increasing power and capacity of robots. Media scare reports indicate that robots will soon take great swaths of today's careers, especially in industries that are already used advanced automation. Undoubtedly, there is some justification for this anxiety. Advanced robotics is taking expansion to the next level and will pose more questions about robot-human integration. New designs of robots are skillful in becoming agent-based models that can be connected not only to robots, but also to a wider network composed of both humans and machines. This is already becoming conventional. Human-robot teams are used in advanced space systems as well as in day-to-day activities. The nature of trust is additionally pivotal if teams are to perform well. They have given unsurprising sources of information which has made it easy to understand their intentions. It is not that hard to incorporate those robots. Nevertheless, when the operators have more self-governance, a human-robot relationship will require a more noteworthy level of adaptability to consider the assignment of power. A formal system of control could help the communications of people and robots to function well. In reviewing the achievement of robot-human groups, it is not adequate for industrial psychologists to only analyze the quantitative viewpoint. Any analysis needs to consider the prolonged impact that robots in a group may have on human relationships. What will be the effect of trust be in the organization overall? It might be that profitability rises at first, yet the group's relationship changes with the perception that errors become progressively normal. After some time, a part of the investigations that emerge from human-robot teamwork may turn out to be less fundamental. As artificial intelligence propels, robots may come to be viewed as social specialists. A group may turn into a self-contained unit with mutual limited wisdom. Algorithms. To date, algorithm recommendations have been rare in labor markets, but as more aspects of the labor market become computer-mediated, recommendations will become increasingly feasible. However, it is not clear that labor market recommendations can meaningfully improve upon what employers can do for themselves. Industrial psychologists could assist with choosing who is appropriate for a particular job opening by evaluating qualities that are difficult to capture in a statistical model. Or perhaps assembling a pool of reasonable applicants is simply not that costly to employers. Beyond the perspective of the individual employer, a concern with recommendations is that, by design, they encourage an employer to consider some workers but not others. Horton concluded that algorithm recommendations are both acted upon by employers and also effective at raising hiring, at least for some kind of job openings where more applicants of high quality are valued. While the algorithm is a black box, it delivers recommendations observationally identical to the kinds of workers employers recruit in the absence of these recommendations, at least within the limits of available measurement and statistical power. As such, it makes sense to think of algorithm recommendations as a substitute for costly employer efforts. As more of the labor market becomes computer-mediated, the possibilities for platform-based interventions grow in scope and power. Platforms invariably collect enormous amounts of data on market behaviors and outcomes. They also have nearly full control over what information market participants can see and when. This possibility could have enormous equity and efficiency consequences for labor markets. I will now discuss the method used for this inaugural lecture, the study design. The critical review of the research literature entailed a broad systematic review of contemporary research on the themes of 4IR and STARA. This approach allowed me to evaluate documented research on industrial psychology in future workplaces. The study's eligibility criteria. The boundary of the systematic review was defined to include only documented contemporary research in the field of industrial psychology published between 2015 and 2022. A search was done by means of an online information technology service, including search engines such as EBSCO-host Academic Search Premier and Google Scholar academic databases. The terms 4IR, STARA, and industrial psychology were used in the search. The research articles were treated as the sources of data. The data analysis. A qualitative approach was followed in exploring the 4IR, STARA, and industrial psychologists in future workplaces. Strategies used to ensure data quality. Systematic, rigorous, and analytical processes are among the most significant factors distinguishing good from poor quality research. I therefore articulated the findings in such a manner that the logical processes by which they were developed are accessible to a critical reader. The relation between the data and the conclusions about the data are explicit, and the claims made in relation to the data set are rendered credible. I will then now proceed to the discussion and the practical implications. STARA creates many new opportunities for organizations, but at the same time, several challenges are arising from the ongoing automation and digitization. A STARA competence model for industrial psychologists in the 4IR is proposed. The competencies are clustered into 4 main categories of competencies. The first is specialized competencies, STARA knowledge. Owing to the cumulative task accountability of industrial psychologists, STARA knowledge is becoming increasingly significant. A strategic business, all-inclusive specialized competencies are required to change from operational to more business strategic functions. Industrial psychologists have to be able to accelerate business results. To add value, industrial psychologists must generate competitive market insights, have personal capital, have the skills to influence the business and get the most important things done. Additionally, to drive agility throughout the organization. Also to advance human capability. Industrial psychologists have to successfully advance human capability in the organization. It includes a focus on working with line managers to develop talent and to deliver human resources solutions that improve both individual talent and organizational performance. It also includes a specific focus on championing diversity, equity, and inclusion in the workplace to improve overall organizational performance. Other competencies under this cluster includes process comprehension, media and programming abilities, as well as understanding information technology security. The second cluster of competencies is then methodological competencies, to simplify complexity. Industrial psychologists have to think critically and objectively about the challenges their organizations face in the 4IR. It reflects the ability to separate signals from noise, to think independently, and to discover opportunities even during times of uncertainty or crisis. Also to mobilize information. Industrial psychologists have to be able to assess, analyze, and act on information based on 4IR technology, to solve problems and to influence decisions. It reflects comfort with data-based decision-making, curiosity about advancing digital technologies, and understanding of social issues that will impact the organization. Industrial psychologists have to be able to utilize reliable sources for continuous learning in fluctuating environments of artificial intelligence. Further competencies under this cluster include creativity, innovative thinking, problem solving, conflict solving, decision making, diagnostic abilities, as well as proficiency assimilation. The third cluster of competencies is societal competencies, intercultural abilities. These abilities involve industrial psychologists in understanding of different cultures, especially different work practices when working nationally and internationally, to foster cooperation. This competency captures the extent to which industrial psychologists successfully foster cooperation of working together. It includes consideration of how open and self-aware they are, how effectively they inspire trust and respect, and how effectively they build relationships that brings people together. Also, under this competency is language and communication abilities, as well as network abilities. Teamwork, compromising and cooperative abilities, knowledge transfer, and leadership. Then the last competency is personal competencies, flexibility. Escalating virtual work makes industrial psychologists time and place independent. Work task rotation further necessitates industrial psychologists to be flexible with their job responsibilities. Also uncertainty tolerance. This involves enduring change for industrial psychologists, especially work-related change due to work task rotation or reconfigurations. Other competencies is continuous learning, the ability to work under pressure, a sustainable mindset, as well as resilience. In that, is the capacity of the industrial psychologist to cope in spite of 4IR STARA or barriers or limited resources. Resilient industrial psychologists are willing and able to overcome fears of the 4IR STARA by tapping into their emotional strength. So given this proposed competency model, industrial psychologists have to perform a strategic intelligence role in organizations in terms of the top 10 4IR workplace trends identified in 2021. The 4IR trend 10, virtual learning. Virtual learning, the use of 4IR technology to deliver instruction and to facilitate more effective learning, is the 10th most impactful trend identified in 2021. Although the use of 4IR technology to enable digital aspects of learning and gamification has been evolving for decades, along with more robust technology and algorithms, the global pandemic, which kept many at home and out of the traditional classrooms, accelerated increased usage and adoption across workplaces and educational institutions around the globe. Industrial psychologists who focus on learning design, learning delivery, and measurement of outcomes have been instrumental in building and implementing platforms and tools such as learning experience platforms to expand on the more traditional learning systems. Updating design of learning programs to be mobile, integrating behavioral economics into approaches to facilitate actions, and measuring the impact of how learning is retained and applied differently because of new delivery approaches. The 4IR Trend 9, which is building cultures of agility and adaptability. With so much 4IR disruption in different ways across different industries and geographies, many businesses have to pivot their organizational strategies and to adjust approaches to get the work done. With some organizations implementing reductions in the workforce and others rapidly expanding, the extent of change experienced in a short time was immense. Some companies found it easier to navigate the change than others, and many who wouldn't describe their organizational cultures as agile and adaptive have started to embrace building this capability going forward. Industrial psychologists support organizations to respond by applying diagnostic tools and designing interventions to aid organizations to adopt new values, to shift mindsets, and to grow their capabilities. Industrial psychologists responsible for strategic human resources practices such as workforce planning, talent analytics, and other talent management and development practices are also guiding their organizations to increase their agility and adaptability by leveraging data to inform decision-making and updating existing practices. The 4IR Trend 8, the changing nature of work. Many recent developments of this trend are being driven by the growing adoption of artificial intelligence, increased digitization, more automation, and approaches to who does the work and how, often based on the evolution of new skills that is required. Although artificial intelligence is influencing most technical domains, on its own it lacks any theoretical understanding of humans and how they work. Industrial psychologists have a unique role to play, integrating psychological research on job performance and individual well-being with cutting-edge artificial intelligence techniques. The opportunity is to strengthen the humanistic component of work by assisting to leverage artificial intelligence in ways that support individuals rather than solely focusing on organizational effectiveness. It is up to industrial psychologists to guide and steer artificial intelligence so that it makes the workplace a better place for humans. The 4IR Trend 7, which is then work-life integration. Work-life integration re-emerged as a key trend, in large part due to the shifts which took place in response to the COVID-19 pandemic. Work and other aspects of life converge in new ways when large numbers of workers shifted to work from home. New adaptations are required for handling the schooling of children, managing personal and family members' illnesses, and other aspects including community, well-being, health, and other lifestyle components. Industrial psychologists could guide organizations to understand the challenges employees face and update workforce practices that increase engagement, retention, productivity, adoption of healthy behaviors, training, flexibility, and other key interventions. The 4IR Trend 6 is then team effectiveness across virtual and distributed environments. With significant developments in the 4IR technology over recent years, some organizations have grown accustomed to working effectively without being physically co-located. But others are grappling with challenges to productivity as leaders, managers, and team members who relied on physical proximity are being required to adapt new ways of working. Industrial psychologists could strategically influence organizations to adapt to this trend through providing models and skill building to help prioritize goals, to align resources, facilitate effective communication, conflict management, and other productive and effective behaviors that build and sustain team performance. The 4IR Trend 5, Social Justice. Elements of social justice, the process of ensuring equal rights and access to opportunity regardless of individual factors, have been integrated into many corporate social responsibility programs and organizational practices for decades. Industrial psychologists often support organizations to address these issues by providing advice and a facilitated approach to identify meaningful goals in the context of each organization's ecosystem and to develop related roadmaps to address these complex issues. The 4IR Trend 4, inclusive practices to get, keep, and to grow talent. Inclusive practices are implemented in organizations in order to ensure that all people, especially those who hold minority identities across various dimensions, feel accepted and valued in the workplace. This topic has important implications for enhancing the extent to which the individual and organizational benefits of workplace diversity are realized. Effective management of diversity, equity, and inclusion means that diverse talents are excited about working at an organization, are able to put forth their best contributions, and that they have a desire to stay. Industrial psychologists are equipped to support this trend in various ways, such as providing organizations with knowledge of inclusive practices, evaluating current practices to identify areas of improvement, developing training to help implement them, examining the role of implicit and explicit bias in organizational processes, exploring disparities in job attitudes across groups, and also designing interventions to address them. The 4IR Trend 3, which is then implementing strategies and measuring progress on diversity, equity, inclusion, and belongingness. Related to the aforementioned trend, implementation of new strategies and measurement of impact of various diversity, equity, inclusion, and belongingness programs emerge as its own trend in 2021. This is in large part due to the continual evolution of talent analytical capabilities. With the capture of accurate and consistent data over time and the availability to key stakeholders of practical reporting, progress on diversity, equity, inclusion, and belongingness initiatives, or the lack thereof, is becoming much more visible. Industrial psychologists can use their expertise in the management of large amounts of information and analysis of data to aid organizations to create reporting that leads to increased awareness and education through descriptive analysis, predictive insights, and prescriptive recommendations. The 4IR Trend 2, employee health, well-being, wellness, and safety. This trend remains a top priority for many organizations. Benefit costs continue to rise, and organizations continue to invest in helping employees manage stress to help reduce the physical, mental, and emotional impacts that drive increased costs. The costs are both direct costs to the balance sheet and indirect costs, such as lower engagement, performance, and retention. With COVID-19, a much greater focus on safety emerged for both the essential and non-essential workers, and many employees shifted to working from home and experienced greater integration between work and family. Industrial psychologists support organizations by conducting research to identify root causes of stress and design programs to decrease risks. In cooperation with other experts, industrial psychologists provide advice on the design of ethical and practical benefit programs and work practices that contribute to health, well-being, wellness, and safety of employees and members of organizations' expanded workforces. The 4IR Trend 1, remote work and flexible working arrangements. Working remotely and flexible work arrangements emerge as the top 4IR trend in 2021. Although significant variation exists across industries, occupations, and geographies, the rise of remote work impacted many and has a broad array of implications for employers and employees. To support organizations in adapting to this 4IR trend, industrial psychologists could strategically lead organizations to evolve culture and leadership practices and update the design of workforce strategies. In some cases, strategies will be less dependent on geography, and in others there will be a need to incorporate greater understanding of impacts on different types of workers by rebuilding, for example, the offices to only hot desks and communal meeting areas. Industrial psychologists could also guide organizations to develop remote working policies, updated compensation practices, productivity measures, hiring practices, assessments of satisfaction, engagement, and career development. In conclusion, I view myself as playing a professing role in the education and training of professionally qualified industrial psychologists, especially in the 4IR STARA context. My goal is that qualifying students can competently and ethically contribute to strategic and operational human resources practice and people behavioral dynamics, assessment, and intervention design in organizations. Due consideration should be given to the disruptive change of the 4IR STARA and the evolving needs of a generational and culturally diverse knowledge and information society. In line with the Health Professions Council of South Africa scope of practice for industrial psychologists and the Health Professions Council of South Africa's minimum standards for the training of industrial psychologists, the curriculum is designed to focus on the development and application of industrial and organizational psychology to main area competencies pertaining to tangible and observable human behavior-related diagnosis, design, intervention, and assessment applied on individual, group, and organizational levels. The teaching outcomes incorporate the planning, development, and application of relevant and appropriate universal and Afrocentric paradigms, theories, models, constructs, and principles of psychology to issues related to the world of work in the 4IR, in order to understand, modify, and enhance individual, group, and organizational behavior, well-being, and effectiveness. It is imperative that the training of industrial psychologists contribute to the conceptualization, design, and implementation of methods of inquiry, including the application of specialized knowledge, skills, and technologies relevant to the industrial psychology profession to address complex and challenging human behavior problems in the 4IR organizational context. The solutions, insights, and new knowledge generated by means of advanced scholarship and research may contribute to improved quality of work life, organizational productivity, and human development in the South African and African work context. The ODEL delivery mode of UNISA enables the intern to gain practical work experience while pursuing further distance education and training as a prospective industrial psychologist. The practical education and training work are based on experiential learning, focused on the application of knowledge and skills in the various internship domain areas for industrial psychologists. In closing, this lecture centered on the various ramifications of the 4IR STARA, particularly for industrial psychologists. Current industrial psychologists should contemplate that STARA will change the profession forever. Thus, they should progressively be aware of the ramifications of STARA inside their field and design strategies to cope with these potential changes. As artificial intelligence and machine learning become increasingly normal, industrial psychologists can lead the way in guaranteeing the utilization of information and research, assisting with the translation of results, and guaranteeing the legitimate solidness of information models and their use. Industrial psychologists could also assist researchers by understanding their employees' responses to their new artificial intelligence colleagues through theories and by creating interventions to enable employees to adjust to the change. As both of these strategies becomes increasingly important, it will be a basic premise for organizations to incorporate industrial psychologists in their information technology groups to use their skills, guaranteeing optimal results for organizations. This new period of the 4IR could be viewed as a period of energy for industrial psychologists and could also be held onto as an open door for research and self-awareness. The strategic intelligence role of the industrial psychologist in empowering organizations through times of disruptive change and development by offering wellness programs to assist employees to cope could not be overemphasized. That concludes my inaugural lecture. Ladies and gentlemen, please allow me to express my gratitude and sincere thanks to the following: to UNISA management, the Principal and Vice Chancellor, Professor Lenka Bula, for this invitation and wonderful occasion. It will remain a highlight in my life and academic career. The Vice Principal, Strategy, Risk and Advisory Services, Professor Ndlovu, for your thoughtful welcome. The Executive Dean of the College of Economic and Management Sciences, Professor Moale, for your kind words of introduction. The Deputy Executive Dean of the College of Economic and Management Sciences, Professor Mpofu, and the Director for the School of Management Sciences, Prof. Malhutsi, for your continued support in my academic career. The Chair of the Department of Industrial and Organizational Psychology, Dr. Mapala, for your support and wisdom. The respondent to my lecture, Professor Kutsia, for your active mentorship role in my academic career. I've learned so much from you over the years, and your exemplary example as a scholar remains an inspiration for me. My family, my lovely wife Susan Oosthuizen, thank you so much for all your love and continued support in my academic career. I won't forget the days that you've typed the chapters for my master's dissertation, your encouragement with my doctoral studies, and always for believing in me when I've applied for promotion. we have waited a long time for my full professorship, and now we are blessed to celebrate this occasion together. As they say, behind every successful man stands a powerful woman. My children, my son Jean Oosthuizen and my daughter Rosanne Oosthuizen, I'm so proud of you. Always believe in yourself, and as you witness this pinnacle in my career today, the sky is the limit for you in your careers. My parents, my late father Jannie Oosthuizen, how do I wish that you could have been present today to witness this event. As you were also a former industrial psychologist, I miss the times we had conversations about our profession and also attending conferences together. Your inspiration and legacy in my life and career will always be remembered. My mother, Christa Oosthuizen, I'm thankful that you can be present today. Thank you for your love and support in my life and career. As you were a former teacher, I am proud to say that I have combined the careers of my parents in one, to be an academic, a teacher, and an industrial psychologist. My parents-in-law, my late father Ari Brown, my mother-in-law Rita Brown, who is present, thank you very much for all your love and support in my career endeavors. My colleagues, Professor Meyer from the Department of Industrial Psychology and People Management, the College for Business and Economics at the University of Johannesburg and the Europe University in Frankfurt, Germany. Thank you very much for our research association on the Fourth Industrial Revolution. Your scholarship is commendable. I would like to thank my colleagues at the University of South Africa, the Department of Industrial and Organizational Psychology, for your support and encouragement in my academic career. My sincerest gratitude also goes to the UNISA librarian, Mrs. Melanie Milan, for all your assistance with the literature searches for this inaugural lecture. I thank Mr. Mamarubela, Ms. Mapelele, Ms. Masholotola, and Ms. Ngobe from the Department Institutional Advancement for the inaugural lecture arrangements, and Mr. Masumeli, Ms. Champion, Mr. Katamazi, and Ms. Nkosi from the Department of Sound and Video for the recording and photography of this inaugural lecture. I thank all the distinguished guests, students, and friends for your virtual presence and attention. I give all the honor and glory to my personal Savior, Jesus Christ, for this achievement and blessing in my life. I thank you.
I'm Professor Melinda Kutsie from Department Industrial and Organizational Psychology. In absentia, Professor Lenka Bula, Principal and Vice Chancellor, Professor Ndlovu, Vice Principal, Strategy, Risk and Advisory Services, Professor Mugale, Executive Dean of the College of Economics and Management Sciences, Professor Mpofu, Deputy Executive Dean of the College of Economic and Management Sciences, Professor Mulaudzi, Director of the School of Management Sciences, Dr. Mapala, Chair of the Department of Industrial and Organizational Psychology, Professor Oosthuizen, and colleagues. We celebrate today our esteemed colleague, Prof. Rudi Oosthuizen's rite of passage to full professorship. Professor Oosthuizen, we observe today your statement of passion and care for the future fitness of the professional industrial psychologist in a new era of advanced technology. Prof. Oosthuizen, you impressed us with your eloquent picture of the changing nature of workplaces and organizations in the new era of STARA, smart technology, artificial intelligence, robotics, and algorithms. Your voice on the pervasive new reality of the fourth industrial revolution and its consequences for a technology-advanced society digital-driven workplaces, and the new role and competencies of the professional industrial psychologist was vivid and convincing. There is a wonderful quote by Benjamin Franklin, and I quote, "There are three sorts of people in the world. Those who are immovable, people who don't get it or don't want to do anything about it. There are people who are movable, people who see the need for change and are prepared to listen to it. And there are people who move, people who make things happen." Prof. Oosthuizen, if we can inspire more colleagues and students, such as you have done today, there will be a movement. And if the movement is strong enough, that's in the best sense of the word, a revolution to embrace the world of STARA in our IOP profession. And as clearly brought forward in your message, that is what we need in a curriculum design and education and training of future STARA astute industrial psychologists. Prof, you convinced us that a new technology in IOP paradigm is on the horizon for us as academics who are caretakers of the STARA future fitness of our IOP students and their roles in workplaces that are transitioning to the new normal of digitization. We salute you for awakening us to the reality of STARA and the key workplace trends that form the new landscape in which the profession of IOP will be practiced. It is evident that now, more than ever, a regeneration of IOP skills and mindset is needed in the digital work sphere. The thought-provoking competence framework you outlined for the education and training of the strategic intelligent industrial psychologist in the fourth industrial revolution era of work serves as a sound roadmap and GPS for the uncharted journey the IOP profession and us as IOP educators and researchers are entering into. However, great road trips take planning and empirical data. Your message brought to light some initial questions for future research. How can we facilitate understanding of the STARA IOP context as a prime focus of inquiry and inspire our IOP students and colleagues to appreciate, challenge, and renew the study of organizational phenomena, including people behavior, well-being, and performance in organizations for advancements of an IOP theory that is situated in an evolutionary, complex, empirical reality? How can we encourage and integrate high-quality indigenous research on the STARA IOP paradigm to inform UNISA's drive towards Africanization of the IOP curriculum? How can we encourage responsible, positive impact STARA IOP research that contributes relevant, credible, and useful knowledge toward the betterment and flourishing of our IOP profession, society, and people in digital-driven workplaces? How can we integrate the STARA IOP paradigm and competency framework into IOP theory, curriculum, and assessment? Your message today showcased that STARA technology is closely intertwined with all human behavior, and as academics, scholars, and students of the IOP field, we need to learn how to appropriately model it as a new contextual paradigm to describe, explain, predict, and optimize human behavior at work. And finally, how can STARA IOP research help to advance the IOP field, science, practice, and profession towards staying relevant for the future in its service to individuals, teams, and leaders in workplaces, communities, and society as a whole? In conclusion, Prof. Oosthuizen, We eagerly await your new research initiatives on the eye-opening theme you presented today, and a new knowledge that we can harvest from your research to inform our IOP curriculum design, student learning and teaching, including the measurement, development, and assessment of STARA intelligent IOP competencies. Thank you for the privilege of acting as respondent.
Thank you very much. Madam Principal and Vice Chancellor, members of Council and Senate, members of the academic community, students, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the University Council, our Senate, and the leadership of the university, please join me in officially welcoming Professor Rudolf Oosthuizen to the ranks of full professor at the University of South Africa. Prof. Oosthuizen, thank you for the complex, very instructive and provocative lecture. It comes at an opportune time as we are engaged in curricular deliberation and transformation at this university. We as UNISA pride ourselves as the African university shaping futures in the service of humanity. We are pleased to have you amongst the professorate. On behalf of the university management and our Senate, I congratulate you on having achieved this academic milestone. Ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of this afternoon's proceedings. Considering that we are doing this lecture online, I am sure you have planned for the celebrations of this day wherever you are. I thank you and thank you all. Be safe.